want to point out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I want to hope gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Energy Week with me, George Harvey, and the amazing Tom Fennell.
In the flesh.
I knew you were going to say that.
I know you.
Anyway, every day I do my blog, geoharvey.com, geoharvey.com, in case you want to go there. And I find the news relating to energy and climate change and put together a blog post. June 2nd will be the 10th anniversary of my blog.
Okay.
And assuming that I don't have something funny happen between now and then, I will have posted every single day in 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will repeat
good record.
that next time around.
We're going to get your birthday cake or something.
Something. No birthday cake. I don't want cake. If you could get me a birthday beef, steak, and kidney pie.
How about a snake and pygmy pie?
Nah. I haven't had beef, steak, and kidney pie for a long time. I used to like that when I was a little kid, which is kind of surprising if you think about it. No. Anyway, the blog is put together so that Tom and I can talk about it on this show. I pick the most important items from
the best of the
day.
blog.
The best of the blog, as Tom always says. And you can look down at the scroll down on the screen down. No, wrong way. Down that way.
There's a link.
There's a link down there, and there's also a file that you can download. They're the same thing, but you can do either one. And
well, some of these things are well worth looking at. I'll try to mention it to them.
Yeah.
And if you want to go follow the links, sometimes it's well worth doing.
Oh, well worth, yeah. And we should just start our first item here.
Well, I guess we can.
Let me put the picture up.
Picture up.
There we go.
I'll put the picture up.
This is a picture of a dam.
Damn it.
That runs across a river between Paraguay and Brazil.
Nice dam.
That's a big dam.
It is a big dam.
The second.
Well, it's the second largest in the world.
Yeah, and
that's just what it says.
let's actually read the stuff here, and then we can talk about it. This is from CNBC.
Well, it's Itaipu Dam, and it's the world's second largest hydropower plant, and it's set for a 14-year upgrade after a deal with GE. So
right.
It's going to take them 14 years to upgrade it.
There's a lot of turbines in this dam.
Oh, well, you can see from the picture.
Yeah, and those turbines, every one of them is going to have to be replaced, and they are big. Okay, GE Renewable Energy has signed a deal that will see it carry out upgrades to the 14 gigawatt. What's a gigawatt, Tom?
It's a bigawatt, baby.
Yeah. 1 gigawatt of hydro is about 50% bigger than the Vermont Yankee nuclear plant in terms of output. Well,
yeah, okay. Yeah, right. Yeah, that makes sense.
There's 14 of them. Yep. So this thing is gigantic. This is the Itaipu hydropower plant, a vast facility straddling the border between Brazil and Paraguay. Itaipu started production in 1984. The upgrade will last 14 years. And
that means it will take them 14 years to do the upgrade.
Right. And this dam provides 90% of the electric power for the country of Paraguay.
I was just going to say that. It's the second after China's Three Gorges Dam. That's the largest one in the world.
Why is it called Three Gorges?
Well, I imagine if you had a map, you'd figure that out. That's 22.5 gigawatts. So this isn't much bigger than that. And this, as you just said, provides 90% of the energy consumed between Paraguay, 90% in Paraguay and 10% Brazil.
But it's 90% of Paraguay's and 10% of Brazil's.
Well, Brazil is a lot larger.
Brazil is a lot bigger. And my recollection was that they also sell electricity to Argentina.
I didn't see that
this
in the article,
thing is
but
producing,
it's believable.
Yeah. I remember reading years ago that this particular dam supplied 1,000% of Paraguay's needs for electricity. But most
well,
of
it says 90%.
Yeah, but that means that the rest of that 1,000% goes to Brazil and possibly Argentina.
Aha.
You see.
Well, hydro is the largest renewable source of electricity,
Yeah.
generating more in the world than all other renewable technologies combined.
But not for long, because
No,
hydro
they're
is-
catching up.
Yeah,
they're catching up. According to the International Energy Agency, nearly 40% of the planet's hydropower fleet is more than 40 years old. So they're approaching requiring major modernization.
Yeah.
Let's move along here. We got
let's
another
do
picture
that.
coming up.
This
Interesting
picture
picture here.
is a petrochemical plant in Germany in a town called Schwedt.
You know, I've seen a petrochemical plant in New Jersey, which is the Esso plant.
Yeah.
Exxon now, but it was
Yeah.
the Esso, and it's in Newark. Well,
Yeah.
it's actually not in Newark. It's right on the Newark boundary. And it extends for miles.
Yeah, they're huge.
This is probably just as big. It's just,
Oh, yeah.
you're taking
It's hard to know how far this thing goes. You can see trees around it and stuff, but maybe
It's
it
big.
picks up again on the other side of the
It's
trees.
big.
I don't know.
Well, what it says here is the Ukraine war, how Germany is getting rid of Russian oil.
Yeah, this is from the BBC.
A little politically correct right here, politically accurate.
Yes. Since the invasion, the German government has dramatically reduced its dependence on Russian oil from 35% to 12%. That's a big reduction.
Very big.
All of which comes to the refinery in the town of Schwedt in northeastern Germany. Germany has managed to pivot away from Russian oil quicker than expected, and they're expecting that Germany will be done with Russian fossil fuels very soon.
It's hard for them to do it because they rely very heavily. Well, there's a video here that's worth looking at, and I'll give you the title. It's EU ban on Russian oil will not be easy.
Yes.
And it's with Ursula von der Leyen, who is the president of the European Union.
Right.
So Schwedt is the key to the EU's plan to phase out Russian oil imports.
Right.
Okay, more than 1,000 people work there. Another 2,000 work at local companies that depend on it. So this is politically difficult.
This is difficult. But
however, the refinery, this is even more difficult, is majority owned by the Russian state oil company, Rosneft.
Right.
This is the only site in Germany that's still dependent on Russian oil. So Berlin is trying to diversify as quick as possible and stop Russian imports as soon as the economic hit is manageable.
Right. Okay.
Our next another picture here.
We have a picture here.
This is an interesting picture. It looks
Jamestown.
like my house in Wardsboro.
I've actually been at Jamestown, but it was so long ago that it looked nothing like this.
I don't think I've seen Jamestown.
Yeah.
Well, it's America's first English settlement, and it's now endangered. And by the way, there's a list in this article of America's most 11 endangered historic places.
Okay. This is from the BBC. One of the most important historic sites in the United States has been put on the list of endangered places. Preservation groups warn that Jamestown, Virginia, the first successful English colony in America, may not survive another generation because of climate change.
Well, early settlers chose Jamestown because the river offered a safe harbor for ships and protection from attack.
Yes.
Climate change is accelerating the pace of erosion and flooding, jeopardizing the site.
Right.
So that's what's going on there.
It reminds me a little bit of Vandalia, Illinois, which I think was the capital of Illinois.
I don't know.
It got swallowed up by the Mississippi River.
Yeah, so it's not even there anymore. Huh?
Well, I think there are a few buildings that are on the wrong side of the river.
Yeah.
Because the river, changed its course.
Well, it's estimated that the fort and the surrounding area will be underwater.
Yes.
Within 35 years.
Within 35 years.
And by the way, this is for what it's worth. A sideline. Jamestown is often described as the birthplace of both democracy and slavery in America.
Yes. Okay.
Friday, May 6th, coming right up.
Friday, May 6th, and we have an interesting picture
look at
here.
An airplane.
This is something that we've seen before. It's called Sky Dweller here, but it was Solar Impulse 2. And
well, they sold it to Sky Dweller.
That's right. And,
interesting looking plane.
Yeah.
This solar-powered plane could stay in the air for months.
This is from CNN. The solar-powered airplane Solar Impulse 2 circumnavigated the Earth powered entirely by sunlight in 2016. In 2019, the airplane was sold to Sky Dweller Aero, a U.S.-Spanish startup, with the intention of turning the plane into the world's first commercially viable pseudo satellite. And by the way,
I'll tell you a second what that is.
Yeah, well, why don't you do that, Tom?
Well, first of all, I mentioned there's a lot of pictures in this article.
Yes.
So you might look it up just to see the pictures.
Yes.
There's more than several. A pseudo satellite is an aircraft that stays aloft indefinitely. As such, it can do basically anything a satellite can do, but cheaper. Satellites are expensive to build and have to be launched into orbit via a rocket, which is generally powered by fossil fuels. So this can just go up there and stay there.
Yep. Obviously, it's robotic. There's nobody in it.
Well, as it stands now, right now, there is somebody in it, but it's intended that
If
they will do away with
they're going to
him.
stay aloft for months, they're not going to have it with anybody in
It's
the plane.
got the wingspan of a Boeing 747. I'm going to put the picture up again. And weighing only as much as an SUV. It's covered with more than 17,000 solar panels, and it's capable of doing the work of an orbiting satellite with more flexibility and less environmental impact. It's able to fly at night on battery power using energy stored during the day.
Yes.
The article indicated there's going to be a bunch of these things coming.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you know, Tom, what this reminds me of is a species of swallow.
A what?
Species of swallow, bird.
Yeah.
That nested in the area of Cambridge, I think, in England. I might have the exact place wrong. But every year, these birds that had nested would migrate south. And nobody could figure out where they went. And they would be found occasionally, you'd find one that had died in Spain, but it wasn't until years passed that people started to realize that the reason why nobody could figure out where they went was because they never landed.
They stayed in the air,
They stayed in the air, and they would,
Wow.
at the end of the day when they're going around looking for bugs in the air, they would get a hold of a thermal updraft and they would just rise into the clouds and they would circle for the entire night sleeping.
Sleeping while they're up there, huh?
Yep.
Interesting.
Okay.
Well, let's take a look at what is rather a troubling map.
There we go.
It's called the U.S. Drought Monitor. And if you
Yep.
look at it, the entire western United States is in a drought.
Almost, yeah, almost. This is from CNN.
Pretty close to it. Well, on May 3rd, that map was drawn, so that's accurate as of less than a month ago.
Actually, a week ago.
Couple, yeah.
Barely over a week ago.
Well, the article says that drought expands in the Southwest, worsening the region's fire risk and water crisis.
Drought conditions worsened in much of the Southwest over the past week, according to the latest update from the U.S. Drought Monitor, deepening the region's water crisis and fueling record-setting wildfires. More than 98% of the Southwest is in drought this week. Now,
Well, experts say that the term drought may be insufficient to capture what is happening.
Well, I think, yes, you'll notice that on the right side of that is a little key that talks about intensity.
Well, the darker the red, the more intense the drought.
The second darkest red is extreme drought, and the
Northwest
darkest
Texas.
is called exceptional drought. And
That's rough. Northwest Texas is in trouble.
Yeah, yeah. There's
almost all of Texas is in trouble.
Well, yes, yeah. So there you have it.
So the only part of the country that's escaping it basically is the east and the extreme northwest.
Yes, that's right.
Wow. This is from the article. The Great American Lawn is terrible for the water crisis.
The Great American what? Lawn, yes.
Grass lawns require exorbitant amounts of water just to maintain.
I think we have an article about that, don't we?
I don't think we do.
Okay, Las Vegas has outlawed lawns.
Okay, I think that is familiar with me. So somewhere along the line, I got it last week.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's move along here because we have an interesting picture of a green roof.
Yes.
And this pretty green to me. It looks like a nice roof, really.
Yeah, it does. Like a nice place to go. In the very middle of the picture, I should say the very middle of that garden, there's a white vertical object that looks like it's probably about 8 or 9 feet tall.
Looks like a statue of the Virgin.
You know, I was going to say the same thing. I wonder if that's the BVM, as they say.
I don't know. It's a little skinny, but it could be just the way she's oriented.
Or she might be standing on something. Okay, this is from Clean Technica. What do you got?
Well, there's a new law in France.
Yeah.
Green roofs on all new commercial buildings. Good idea.
Okay, yeah. The French Parliament approved a law requiring all new commercial buildings to partially have their roofs covered with either plants or solar panels. The law will apply to all new buildings in commercial zones. Environmentalists had wanted the roofs to be completely covered by greenery, so they were not entirely happy.
Well, it makes sense to kind of have both. Green and panels.
Yes, it does.
So green roofs have been proven to reduce what they call heat islands by providing shade, removing heat from the air, and reducing the temperatures of roof surfaces.
Tom, have you ever burned your feet walking barefoot on asphalt in the sun?
Probably.
I have. It's a very painful thing. If they had, that stuff gets hot.
Yes, it does.
And the area of it in the United States is absolutely huge. I mean, it's like, I remember reading sometime that it was the area covered by asphalt in the United States was bigger than the area of New England.
Wow.
Yeah. I remember reading
all of the roads.
Yeah, the roads, the roofs, all of that stuff that's black.
Yeah.
And even when I was a kid, I remember in school somebody saying, "Look at this," and they were pointing to an article somewhere that said that the area of the United States covered by asphalt was the size of the state of Louisiana. And okay, we have a problem.
Big enough jump to talk about New England.
Yeah. And we have problems with climate change, global warming, things being too hot, things being too dry. And why are we doing this? Why don't we just have green roofs like that?
Well, it would make it, to me, it makes a lot of sense.
Makes a lot of sense.
And the article says that rooftop solar panels, which they are pushing in here, they eventually pay for themselves and start making the owner money.
I have an idea, Tom.
For beginner's luck.
Why don't you run for president as a Democrat or a Republican? It doesn't matter. And I'll run for president as the other party. And then we'll just agree that whichever one of us wins,
we'll point the other one as vice president.
Head of the Environmental Protection Agency or something. But, really, some of this stuff just seems very simple to do.
Well, the article says that solar installers should give an opinion for a fully covered roof. Yeah. Solar panels plus a green roof.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
We should go on.
Another picture coming up.
We are up to, what are we up to? There we go.
There we go.
Saturday, May 7th.
Looks like a giant stork over on the right, doesn't it?
A what?
Giant stork.
Don't get that.
A bird.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Well, that appendage on the right resembles a stork with long legs and a long neck.
And a huge tail.
And a huge tail.
Okay.
Well, that's an oil platform.
It sure
and
is.
It's spewing.
It's spewing gas, which it's burning, and I want you to notice that that thing is all yellow, except for the area around the flame on the right, which has got a lot of black on it.
Yeah.
That black has got there from that flame.
Yeah, that's just soot.
That's soot. This is from Clean Technica. What do you got for a title?
Well, if I look hard enough, I'll find it.
Okay.
Texas is in turmoil as green finance is very appealing to major funds.
Right. Last year, the Texas legislature passed a law to stop fund portfolios that don't include fossil fuel companies from doing business in the state. I got news for you. That doesn't sound like freedom to me. They may not do business with companies the state controller said are boycotting fossil fuels, but there are loopholes.
Well, they're figuring out how to get around that.
I don't know. This does not sound. It sounds like.
Well, the people that are getting the money now don't want to lose any of that, so they're trying to make sure that.
Yeah.
Well, there are no national standards for companies to report their greenhouse gas emissions. So figuring out who is investing in green finance is actually quite difficult.
The problem with this, Tom, is if I were living in Texas and I wanted to invest money in some kind of fund,
yeah,
I would choose a fund that was green. And if
would, but not everybody would.
If the state of Texas will not allow it to do business in Texas, then I will buy funds somewhere else.
That there's ways around it.
Yeah, but I'd buy funds somewhere else, which means that what they're doing is they're making Texas less attractive as a place to invest. Okay.
Well, let's look at this picture here.
Whoops.
Coming up here. Whoop.
I'm having trouble with scrolling.
Yeah, there we go. Well, look at the picture first, right?
That is an energy storage system, and we're going to have to talk about that a little bit.
That is very, very interesting. Let's leave it up there for a while.
Okay, good. This is from Renews.
Well, I'll tell you what it's going to tell us. It's a gravity-based storage team, and they've kicked off construction in China. It's called Energy Vault.
Yes.
And those are energy vaults.
Okay, now Energy Vault is the one that we've seen, and there's 6 things up at the top, and there's huge concrete bricks that are being raised and lowered.
Yeah, they are the company that was picking up concrete blocks with a crane and putting them on a shelf.
Here they've got
they've mechanized the process.
Yep, they've got a slightly different system here.
Well, it's my own words about it. It's fiendishly simple.
Yes.
But diabolically clever.
Yes, I think so.
And they've just automated that process. Instead of just one crane lifting one cinder block up at a time, it's about 100 little cranes.
Yes.
Inside of one of those boxes.
Well, there's another aspect to this.
They look, I'll put it back, they look like buses. But they're many, many times bigger than a bus.
Yeah, and
if you look in the lower right corner, you'll see an SUV. Give you some idea how big.
Lower right corner?
Lower right corner.
I don't see it.
Well,
yes, I do.
I'll give you some idea of how big these things are.
Okay, what this says is Energy Vault, Atlas Renewable, and Chinese Tianying have started construction of a 100 megawatt-hour gravity-based storage system adjacent to a wind farm and national grid site in Rudong in the Jiangsu province of China. The EVX system will be the first to be deployed in the country. But the thing that I wanted to get at here, Tom, is those blocks in the other places that we've seen in the past are made out of concrete.
Yeah.
These things are basically big tanks that they're moving up and down filled with water.
Are they really? The article didn't say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you think about the amount of energy that goes into the production of concrete versus the amount of energy that goes into the production of water, they're saving a lot of energy in these things in the original production of them.
Well, in 2021, China produced more greenhouse gases than the next 4 countries combined.
Right.
Okay, as currently planned, they will continue to increase emissions.
Right.
So Energy Vault's innovative gravity-based solutions are based on the physics of pumped hydro, but replaced water with this article says concrete blocks, but you're saying they're blocks that are filled with water.
If you look, I saw your notes. If you look down in your notes, you'll see this in a picture that's blown up.
I'm looking at that picture now. I wish there was some way I could get it up there because it shows you exactly what they look like inside.
Okay. Let's go on. We're being very slow here today.
We got a picture. They said, well, let's get the picture up.
Yeah,
they said that's a freeze-thaw battery. I think somebody screwed up and they put the wrong picture up.
No, I think that's correct.
It does not look like a battery to
No,
me.
it doesn't look like a battery. I think it's a test. And the reason why it looks like it does is because the freezing and thawing of the battery is going to involve expansion and contraction. So they need to have bolts on there that are going to deal with that. But this is from Scientific American.
Well, the article says that a rechargeable molten salt battery freezes energy in place for long-term storage.
For long-term energy storage, researchers at the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory showed that freezing and thawing a salt solution can be the basis for rechargeable battery that can store energy cheaply and efficiently for weeks or months at a time. And basically what happens is when you freeze this battery, it doesn't discharge.
No, it's dead.
You want some electricity, let it thaw out.
You got to either let it thaw out or put some heat into it.
Put some heat into it.
Well, freezing and thawing salt creates a rechargeable battery that can store energy cheaply and efficiently for months at a time.
Right. Okay, we should move along here, Tom, I think, unless you've got more on that.
Well, in this battery, the electrolyte is made up of, they call it a salt solution.
Right.
That is solid at ambient temperatures and becomes liquid when heated to 180 degrees Celsius.
Which is not terribly hot.
Not terribly hot. It's about as much as it takes to make cookies.
Yeah.
Okay, and so when it's solid, it cannot discharge. It just
won't discharge.
Just sits there.
Yep.
So if you're going to use it, you got to heat the battery.
Yeah.
And, well, they haven't quite figured out how to do that yet. But
they'll get there.
They're getting there. Well, this is in the lab.
Yes, I know.
Right now.
Okay, we're up to Sunday, May 8th, and we have an article from Daily Mail.
Well, let's get a picture up here.
Yeah.
And what is that thing in the picture there, huh?
Well, you're either talking about wind turbines or you're talking about contrails.
I don't think it's about contrails, so it must be about wind turbines.
Yeah.
And it says it is.
Well, good for them.
How about that? And the article, this is interesting to me. Soon we will have too much energy.
Yes.
I don't believe it.
They're talking about Britain here. Britain is predicted to have excess amount of electricity by 2030 due to huge investments in wind and solar power.
That could happen, but they got a place to put it.
They have to have a place to put it. They have to be ready to put it someplace.
Yeah, they'll figure that
Well, one of the things about solar and wind is you can just tell them to shut off. You can't do that with a nuclear power plant.
Yeah, but if you're making money from one, you don't want to sell them.
That's correct. According to a new analysis, it predicts that huge amounts of electricity will go to waste by 2030. The government also wants to build 8 nuclear plants by 2050.
So, what's the point of nuclear plants?
That's my question.
We're going to talk about that again.
Tag that on to the end.
We're going to talk about that again. This is not a single good reason. There is not a single good reason to build nuclear plants, and there are many reasons not to. And we'll cover that again today in another article.
Yes, okay. We are up to an article in Clean Technica, and this is a treaded vehicle like a tank that's designed to operate on the floor of the ocean.
We've talked about this stuff before.
We have indeed.
And
they're actually doing it now.
Well, basically, these nodules occur naturally.
Yeah.
They're spread all over the floor of the ocean.
And they're
in the deepest parts of the ocean.
And they're almost pure metals.
Absolutely. They're just sitting there.
You just pick them up and that's that.
And that's what this thing is doing.
Yeah.
It just roams the bottom of the ocean floor picking up these little modules.
This is from Clean Technica. What do you have for a title?
The Metals Company Success. That's the name of the company.
Yeah.
Deepwater collector vehicle tested at a depth of almost 8,000 feet. And that is a picture of the collector.
Yeah.
And there's people in that picture.
Yes, down on the bottom.
So it's
a polymetallic nodule collector vehicle has been successfully tested in the Atlantic Ocean at a depth of almost 2,500 meters, which is
about 8,000
feet. The vehicle shows that polymetallic nodules can be mined while disturbing the environment minimally.
Well, these little mineral balls are filled with critical metals used in the production of electrical vehicles, particularly batteries.
Yes.
So they're a good source of stuff that we need.
Yes.
The seafloor is the biggest desert on the planet, which just happens to be under about 13,000 feet of water.
Yes.
The metals company is only impacting the top 2 inches.
Yes. Okay. Our next item has a picture of Kanak, which, by the way, used to be called Thule or Thule.
Or Ultimate Thule.
And this is from Nature World News. What do you have for a title?
Arctic town attempts to design wind and solar devices against climate change and energy crisis.
The Arctic town of Kanak, Greenland, plans to incorporate renewable energy to save lives of financially stricken residents who were gripped by the burdens to pay for fossil fuels required to heat and power their homes. Now, bear in mind here, these people don't have fossil fuels. They don't have peat. They don't have wood. They don't have anything.
In the northwest corner of Greenland. They have nothing.
They have nothing
but ice. They got plenty of ice.
They have plenty of ice, except the ice is all melting.
Well, there's an interesting 3-minute video here, which is called, and I quote, "What is renewable energy?"
Oh.
Too bad we can't show it. In the south of Greenland, rapid climate change is threatening traditional ways of life. The environmental impacts of climate change have affected indigenous methods of fishing and hunting. So that's partly what this is about.
Okay.
In July of 2021, the government stated that the future of the country does not reside in the oil industry, which is trying to make headways in Greenland, but rather belongs to renewable energy.
Right.
The statement pertains, this explains what I just said. The government's decision last year to seriously tackle climate change and deviate from oil exploration, despite the country's potential oil and minerals waiting to be revealed by retreating ice due to global warming. So they're going to say, and we don't care if this exposes oil. We're going to stick to traditional ways.
Okay.
Moving right along here.
Monday, May 9th.
This is an interesting picture.
Yeah.
It's towing a floating wind turbine.
We're looking down from above, and on the left is a ship, and on the right is a floating wind turbine.
And if it didn't tell me what it was, I'd never have figured that one out.
I would have figured it out, but one thing that you don't get out of that thing is that wind turbine's probably well over 100 yards tall. This is like probably 35, 40 stories tall.
And that triangular thing is what supports it.
That's right.
It basically floats. Well, they call it a floating wind turbine.
Yes. Okay.
California sets a 3 gigawatt floater, and this is a floater, goal for 2030.
Yes, this is from Renews. California set a floating offshore wind target of 3 gigawatts by 2030 as part of a raft of new goals for the state. The California Energy Commission believes that with that end decade goal, the state can deliver up to 15 gigawatts by 2045 and possibly 20 gigawatts by 2050. The targets are contained in a draft AB 525 report.
You could have avoided saying that one.
Yeah, you're right. I could have. It just happened to be there. So,
well, the targets are bringing the state into line with the Biden administration's ambitions.
Yes.
Okay. They show that California is serious about floating offshore wind. And the reason for that is the West Coast doesn't have a shallow continental shelf.
But it does have, in some places, good wind power.
It's got plenty of wind power.
Yeah.
But so they're using floating turbines instead of anchored turbines.
Yes.
And California is serious about floating offshore wind and realizes the benefits from developing this remarkable renewable energy resource. It is a strong resource.
Yes, it is.
They just can't anchor these things from the ocean floor. They got to have them floating.
That's right.
But we have the technology.
That's right. Okay, our next item is from Clean Technica.
Oh, this one I like. Yeah.
We have a picture of a Volkswagen ID Buzz.
That's the new Volkswagen Bus, which they announced it, and they said they were going to cancel it, and now it's coming back as an electric. So, the Volkswagen ID Buzz, it's called, and it says it's all right on the front.
Yep.
And sold out. Every Volkswagen EV that Volkswagen can manufacture in 2022 is already spoken for.
You want a Volkswagen EV? You're going to have
basically sold out of electrical vehicles in Europe and the United States for all of this year.
Yep. Herbert Diess, CEO of Volkswagen Group, says it is, quote, basically sold out on electric vehicles in Europe and the United States, end quote, for all of this year. A publication called The Verge reports this. That means anyone hoping to buy an EV from Volkswagen
this year,
Audi, or Porsche will have to wait until 2023.
Well, Volkswagen sold just under 100,000 cars in the first quarter of 2022.
Yep.
Tesla sold over 300,000 electric cars, 3 times as many in the same period. So people are starting to look at electric cars.
They are.
Well, the VW has an order backlog in Western Europe of 300,000 electric cars. So it's indicating it's considering building a second electric car assembly plant in the U.S., which would probably be in Toledo.
Right.
And probably a battery factory right next to it.
Yes.
Let's move along.
Let's move along. We have a picture of a jack-up ship here, which is closer than any pictures that I had up on this show in the past.
Well, you can see a bunch of anchors for wind turbines.
Yes, that's right.
And I'm sure that it's a jack-up ship to stabilize the ship while they're installing the wind turbines.
Yeah, absolutely. They jack the ship out of the water so it won't roll with the waves.
Bingo.
Okay, this is from Clean Technica.
A first in the U.S. It is a first. Unions announced a deal to build offshore wind farms, and there's a video about that.
Right. Offshore wind developer Ørsted and North America's building and train unions agreed to a historic national project labor agreement for offshore wind projects along the Atlantic coast. The agreement sets better standards for an industry that is about to grow.
Well, what's interesting is they agreed that this is going to be a union workforce.
Yes.
And the big thing about unions is they make more money, and they got better benefits.
Well, there's another thing about unions too, and that is the union itself is it's
an entity.
Yes, but if you're going to hire people from a union, those people have to get into the union, and in order to do that, they have to be operating at certain standards.
Well, yeah, they have to pass an apprenticeship.
Exactly, and that means that you've got probably a better qualified workforce.
But when these new guys cheaper than that, they just don't know what they're doing.
Yes, that's right. And I don't think I would want people who were not qualified to be installing offshore wind turbines.
Well, I think I agree with you totally. It's basically a matter of economics.
Yes. Okay, should we go on?
Well, the American Wind Energy Association estimates the Biden administration's goal of deploying 30 gigawatts of offshore wind power by 2030 will create more than 80,000 new jobs.
80,000 jobs.
So let's move along. Tuesday, May 10th.
Yeah.
Coming right up. Well, this is an interesting picture.
This is from CBC.
Interesting
that
picture.
You know what an 18-wheeler is.
Well, that's a 32-wheeler just on the trailer.
Actually, if you look closely, you'll see that there are 8 axles on each side of the front and 8 of each side on the back, and each of those axles has got 4 tires. And that means...
Oh, there's 4 tires.
Yeah.
So there's 64 tires. It says there's 32 wheels.
Altogether, there's 128 tires on that thing. And then you've got 14 tires on the cab.
Yep.
So this is a 142-wheeler.
Well, that's a big thing.
It's a small modular reactor.
Well, that's what they say.
That's what they say. Well, the nuclear industry has got some very peculiar ideas about what to call things.
Well, the Green Party leaders are urging the Saskatchewan government to halt small nuclear reactor plants. By the way, that's not Saskatchewan, because there are no mountains in Saskatchewan.
Well, I'll tell you something. That's not going to be a road much longer either if they're going to drive those things across it. Do you remember when Donald Trump wanted to have a military parade in Washington, D.C., complete with tanks? And he was told it would cost many, many, many millions of dollars because the tanks would destroy the roads?
I don't remember that.
Well, these things may not be tracked vehicles, but they would do a job on the roads. That road has got to be a dirt road or a gravel road, because if it's asphalt, it would have to be resurfaced after every one of those trucks goes by. Okay.
Green Party leaders urged the Saskatchewan government to halt small nuclear reactor plants. And
yes.
That is a small nuclear reactor.
Small, yeah.
Which, by the way, they're made in factories.
Yes, that's right. And it's kind of like a small mansion or a small castle or something like that. Okay, interim leader of the Green Party of Canada made a stop in Regina Monday to urge Premier Scott Moe to abandon plans to develop small modular nuclear reactors. Amita Kuttner said developing nuclear power will take too long.
Bingo.
In a climate emergency.
Bingo. We're going to cover that again, but yes.
Yes. Okay.
Well, Saskatchewan is planning to use these things to lower carbon emissions. And we're going to touch base on that. It isn't going to work.
No.
Renewable community-based power is what they should be doing.
Absolutely.
Okay,
I agree.
And not heading down a nuclear path.
Absolutely.
Well, I think if you scratch that one deep enough, you'd find out that there's some money behind it.
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
I think if you scratch it deep enough, you'll find some
well-connected people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Our next item is from the BBC, and it has a... Whoops. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I got the picture.
You have the picture. BBC.
And it's a climate crime scene, is what it says.
That's what it says.
Climate change, there's a 50-50 chance of breaching the 1.5 degree C warming limit. That's not good news.
No, and the worst news is it is within the next 5 years.
Yes, that's...
The likelihood of crossing a key global warming threshold has risen significantly, according to new analysis. UK Met Office researchers say that's it's the meteorology office.
Yeah, the UK Met Office, the meteorological
They call it the Met Office because they have as much trouble pronouncing it as I do. Researchers say that there's now about a 50-50 chance that the world will have warmed by more than 1.5 degrees Celsius within the next 5 years. And
at 1 degree C of warming, the world is already experiencing significant impacts, such as the unprecedented wildfires in North America.
I got news for you.
And the historic heat waves currently hitting India, and Pakistan.
We have Lyme disease in Vermont.
Oh, yeah.
Without climate change, I don't think we would have Lyme disease in Vermont. When I was a kid living across the river in New Hampshire, there were no ticks. There were just no ticks.
True. There weren't any ticks. Now the ticks are coming up and they're killing deer and killing moose.
They're killing the moose. They're really killing the moose. That's a different kind of tick. That's not a deer tick. That's a moose tick. Moose ticks are like that big.
Oh, that's interesting.
They're real, and 70,000 of them on a moose.
They do a job.
They do a job. Okay, our next...
Got an interesting picture here coming up.
Yes, we do.
Let's get that one here.
Isn't that a lovely picture?
Bah!
I put in the caption on this, Carport groundskeeper hard at work.
Yeah, that's what it is.
This is from Clean Technica.
Well, the world's largest solar power carport has been launched.
Yep. A 35 megawatt solar power carport with 90,000 solar panels was activated in the Netherlands, of all places. You know, a tropical country
By the way,
with lots of sunshine.
Carport's just another word for parking lot.
Yes. It is located on the parking site used for the annual Lowlands Music Festival, which has tens of thousands of visitors each year. The parking area covers 35 hectares, which is what, Tom? Do you think about 90 acres?
It's about
80?
2 football fields.
No.
A hectare is about 2 football fields.
Oh, 1 hectare. So this is the equivalent of 70 football fields.
Yeah.
Okay. And it has 15,000 parking spaces.
Well, the article says that parking lots are good locations for solar installations because they provide flat surfaces that aren't being used for anything else.
Yeah, okay. There you go.
It is not necessary to use any additional land.
Although this particular parking lot is being used for something else. It's being
it's used for other festivals.
It's being used to graze sheep.
They graze sheep there.
And if you look closely, you'll see that there are other sheep in that picture. They're way back in the background.
Way in the back, you can see them. Yeah.
This is not exactly.
Looks like a cow.
This is
looks like a cow there, isn't it?
I don't know.
Above it to the left.
I don't think that's either. I think that's a
that's just a pile of debris.
But it's okay.
Well, installing solar panel shelters the cars in the shade, and at the same time, electricity is generated.
Right.
And where there are no events taking place, the power is supplied to the grid, and it's a large amount of power.
It is.
So let's move along to the last day of the week, Wednesday, May 11th.
Right.
And we got a picture of
bleached coral. By the way, that coral could be still alive. When it's bleached, that doesn't mean it's killed.
Doesn't mean it's dead yet.
It just means that all the algae that was in there has been expelled.
Yep. And the Great Barrier Reef suffers the 6th mass bleaching event, with 91% of the reefs surveyed affected.
This is from CNN. Warmer waters from climate change caused coral bleaching in 91% of the reefs surveyed along the Great Barrier Reef this year, according to the Australian government, an Australian government agency. It was the 6th mass bleaching event of the reef on record, and the 4th since 2016. So
they're bunching all up.
In 6 years, we've had 4 of them.
Yeah.
In all of the years before that, we only had
none.
2.
Two. Yeah, 2. This is a good article. It's about 5 good short videos.
Yeah.
I'll mention the name of them. Half of the coral at the Great Barrier Reef is gone. Watch what scientists found at a new Australian reef. That's a real short one. Drone footage captures thousands of turtles nesting. And it's thousands. Once-in-a-lifetime rare blanket octopus spotted in Australia. That's an interesting critter.
It's a very weird critter.
Interesting critter.
Very strange.
And finally, see Australia's Great Barrier Reef create new life in a magical spawning event. Interesting videos.
Yeah, they are.
If you got time, look at them.
Okay.
The Great Barrier Reef stretches down the Queensland coast, attracting around 3 million tourists a year. This is a big thing in Australia.
It's a big thing. I mean, this would be like a reef that extends from Maine to Florida. It's
pretty
big.
much. It's
very big.
It's about that size.
Yeah. And it's full of life when it's functioning properly.
Oh, yeah.
It's a place you can go fishing.
Oh, yeah.
It's, so...
Well,
anyway.
We got a kind of an interesting picture here, I guess.
Yeah.
And there is a old sign which indicates nuclear.
That, by the way, is from Chernobyl.
Is that from Chernobyl?
Yeah, that's from Chernobyl.
Uh-huh. And the article says the insanity of expanding nuclear energy.
Man.
That's the right word.
Yeah, I think so. This is from the environmental magazine. Former nuclear regulatory top dogs from the United States, France, Germany, and Great Britain issued a joint statement in January stressing strenuously opposing any expansion of nuclear power to combat climate change. There is not a single reason to build a new nuclear power plant, and there are many reasons not to.
I was just going to say that same exact thing. We said it earlier, and we're going to say it now. We got 8 minutes left, so there's 10 reasons why that they announced.
Okay, go ahead.
Nuclear is too slow to tackle climate change.
It'll take too long to build a nuclear plant.
Nuclear energy is too costly.
Very expensive.
Nuclear is neither, this is interesting, neither carbon-free nor non-polluting.
Yes.
The energy operating is carbon-free and non-polluting, but getting it out of the ground into your location is bad news.
Yeah.
The problem of permanent disposal of nuclear waste remains unsolvable. What do we do with this stuff?
Yep.
It's non-renewable. A proven geologic repository for spent nuclear fuel doesn't exist. Okay. The nuclear waste dry storage canisters are unsafe for either storage or for transport.
We
got one of them right here in the
We've got more than one. We've got a site where
they are. There's no room for human error or natural disasters when it comes to nuclear. Nuclear plants are sitting ducks for terrorists. The idea that small modular reactors can save the day is, quote, magical thinking.
I would have said fatuous, but that's basic. And these 10 reasons are all reasons that
good reasons.
I was very aware of all of them, and they are.
Most people probably are aware of them if they think about it.
Yeah.
But we've been kind of clued to not thinking about this stuff.
Nuclear energy from a new nuclear power plant is extremely expensive.
It is.
And
we've talked about that on a show. They're taking 8 years to build.
10 years.
10 years to build.
And
why?
And the cost of electricity from an old nuclear power plant that has already been completely paid down is low by comparison. But guess what? It isn't lower than solar power with batteries or wind power with batteries. So,
and in order to build one of these plants, you got to borrow the money.
That's right.
And it takes a long time to pay it back.
And that plant in Georgia, that's upwards.
The Vogtle plant.
Vogtle is they're saying now that is.
How long has that been going on?
Since I think that's been going on since before the Civil War.
Sometimes it seems like that.
But they're saying it's going to be it's going to be over $30 billion. The original quote on that was under I think it was $12 billion.
Too cheap to meter.
It's too cheap to meter. That's right.
The growth in capacity will be mainly driven by solar PV, which is on course to account for 60% of global renewable power by the end of this year.
Yes.
Okay, followed by wind and hydro. So we're talking about solar's getting so damn cheap you can't afford not to use it.
I think that's basically it. And when you throw in storage for that solar, it's still like half the cost of
nuclear.
Nuclear.
Right now, it almost makes sense not to not. It does make sense to put solar on your roof.
Yeah.
In almost all cases.
Yeah.
If you've got any kind of a roof at all, put solar on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are places, if your roof is you can have roofs that are facing east and west now and be productive to put solar panels on, even though they don't get a full day's sunshine.
Whatever they're getting is free energy.
Yes. Okay.
Developments have proven the essential role of renewables in improving energy security.
Well, this is one of the things about
this
war in the Ukraine that really people should pay attention to. People know the concept of a dirty bomb. It's a bomb that's going to spread radioactive stuff all over the place.
Kills people, but not buildings.
No, that's a neutron bomb. This is a dirty bomb.
Dirty bomb.
Really easy to assemble one of these because it's not You don't need to have a really good nuclear reaction to have it be destructive. You just want to throw nuclear mess all over the place. And these nuclear power plants are like dirty bombs that all they need is the fuse. All you need is to put something in there that's going to blow up and have the reactor crash.
And you got a big problem.
And you've got a big problem. And well, if you're crazy enough, and honestly, I think there are people in this world who are crazy enough to do this, you could make a complete mess for other people and just turn life into hell.
Well, we've spoken here about a guy named Fatih Birol.
Yes.
He's an important guy.
Yes.
Cutting red tape, this is a quote from him. Cutting red tape, accelerating permitting, and providing the right incentives for faster deployment of renewables are some of the most important actions governments can take to address today's energy security and market challenges, while keeping alive the possibility of reaching our international climate goals.
Right.
This guy, Birol, he knows what he's talking about.
Yes, he does. Okay.
Well, the last word on my network, on my computer here, it says fini.
Fini, except we have one more, which is from Renews.
We do?
We do.
I don't have any.
See the picture?
Huh?
See the picture?
Yeah, I don't. For some reason, I don't have that one.
You don't have it? Well, I can read the title.
You're going to have to, because I don't.
Okay, it says renewables primed for record in 2022. Renewable power is set to break global records in 2022.
I remember seeing that picture.
Despite higher costs and supply chain bottlenecks, according to the International Energy Agency. The world added a record 295 gigawatts of renewable power capacity in 2021. 295 gigawatts were added in 2021.
295 gigawatts.
Of renewable energy.
That's
a lot of energy. But 320 gigawatts of renewable energy are expected to be added this year.
That's even more.
Yes, 320 is bigger than 295. This is 300.
Well, they make sense. They make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and still,
you're not paying for fuel.
With all of this stuff being built in China, China is producing all of that pollution.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are.
How do you do that? I don't know.
It takes a lot of work.
Yeah, I suppose it does. They're trying to change their economy, and that, I think, is the explanation. They are in a state of change.
Well, they're in a state of confusion at the very least.
Well, I will tell you, they're in confusion, and I agree with you. But, they're not the only ones in confusion. So, we say, whoops.
I didn't even have that.
Have a simply magnificent week. Why don't you put that up so everybody can understand that that is the real sentiment. It's really in words. Have a simply I love the term simply magnificent.
It's simply magnificent, isn't it?
That's right. Why don't you put both of us up and we can wave goodbye.
Well, I bet you I can do that.
I'll bet you can.
Bingo.
There you go. Come back.
Adios, amigos.